Hi,
Hello, how's it going?
good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's been a big week for us at dYdX, but
Huge
yeah, things are
week.
good.
Yeah, things are good. Okay, great. Yeah, right back from, I was just checking that it's live. I see it. We're back from Thanksgiving, back from another trip. It's been a lot of going on this month. I'm honestly feeling a little under the weather, I think, from all the travels, but I
Really.
have Bone Broth
Me too, a
here.
little bit actually.
Yeah.
I feel like I almost lost my voice this week from so many meetings, but it's
Glad
good.
glad it's back for this. Yeah, I feel like I just discovered a life hack, which I know I'm very late to, which is bone broth. I've been drinking so much. It's so much protein. It's so delicious. I'm going to be making my gains and hopefully getting less sick.
Nice. I only have tea over here. I feel like you've
Yeah,
surpassed me.
you're always on your tea girl grind. Okay, cool. It seems like we've been up for a minute. Some people will join, but let's get started. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kenzie, and I'm on the marketing team at dYdX. And today is a very special day as we are joined by our founder and CEO, Antonio Juliano, or as you may know him, Anthony Juliano. Um, as you know, the dYdX chain is live and open for trading. And we've just announced that there's going to be some trading rewards and trading incentives. So we're really excited to have Antonio here to talk about all of that, talk about the journey of dYdX and what this chain means for users. So without further ado, thank you for being here, Antonio. Let's dive into it. First of all, I want to start from the beginning. So maybe just give a brief intro on your background and then what inspired you to create dYdX and explain how this vision has transformed from, original idea to what, our users love and know today.
So I got into crypto back in 2015 when I got my first job out of school at Coinbase. I made my way to Coinbase differently than most people. Didn't really know anything about crypto, but got very into it while I was there. And the really interesting thing that happened while I was at Coinbase is Ethereum was invented. And after I and some other people got a chance to wrap our heads around it, we really understood that this is a fundamentally different way to build programs, and these programs can run on the blockchain. And I thought back then, there must be something that you could build on this new technology that would be very valuable. So a little while later, I ended up founding dYdX. The genesis of the idea really came down to timing, and it was looking at how is this technology being used today. And today was 6.5 years ago, back in 2017, when dYdX was founded. And I would say this is still very much true today. But crypto so far is very much being used for trading and speculation. And I think a lot of people have a misconception about crypto where they really feel like the trading and that speculation are just the first thing that crypto will be used for. I think in some sense that's absolutely true, but in another sense, that's the really big thing that has found product market fit for crypto so far. It's just a fundamentally better way to trade, to financialize different assets. And I think dYdX is a really big part of that. So fast forward 6.5 years, we've been through a lot of different iterations of the product and of the protocol. We started with margin trading just on Ethereum. 6.5 years ago, we were some of the few that were fortunate to help found and kind of create DeFi. That term didn't even exist when dYdX was founded. So we were on Ethereum L1 for a while, and then about 2.5 or 3 years ago, we migrated to a layer 2 in partnership with Starkware. So we were the first major project to really make that jump. Fast forward to today, obviously L2s have taken off in a really big way, and there's a lot of hype around them. And a lot of people have justifiably asked questions of us. Why, at this moment, when L2s are finally having their day in the sun and dYdX has been out here prophesizing the benefits of L2s for a while, have we decided to move off of an L2 to our own layer 1 app chain. So that's what we're building here. If you ever hear us or other people talk about the dYdX chain, it's a Cosmos SDK based blockchain, totally standalone, totally own validators, all of that. And the really big reason that we ended up moving to our own app chain is for decentralization. So Up to this entire point in its history, dYdX has been what's known as a hybrid decentralized exchange. So it is absolutely decentralized in the sense that we've always had open source contracts. The exchange has always been non-custodial, but really the thing that hasn't been decentralized so far is the order book and the matching engine on dYdX. And historically, we at dYdX Trading Inc., my company, have run the infrastructure behind this in a central way. On the dYdX chain, this is fundamentally different. And if you come away hearing only one thing, the main thing to know about the dYdX chain is that it's totally decentralized. And that means that we or any other central party are not involved in its operations. And that's just a really fundamentally different way for an exchange to operate versus having some or all central components. And now we've moved to a world where it's all just open source code.
Yeah, and you just started to touch on my next question, but so you mentioned that we move towards the dYdX chain for kind of decentralization reasons, but it's hard to ignore the success that dYdX was having on its own L2. So how did you balance kind of this need for decentralization versus the success of dYdX in its current form and make the decision that this was the best way for dYdX to go?
So I very much am proud of the way that dYdX has evolved so far, and I think it was absolutely the right decision to take this more progressive approach to decentralization. It just really allowed us to iterate faster, to build a product that was honestly more performant than the underlying decentralized technology has allowed this entire time. And that's something that's really uniquely important to us at dYdX. One of the differences between dYdX and most other decentralized exchanges is that we're very specifically targeting professional traders. So these are twofold. First of all, it's hedge funds in crypto. So these are kind of the market makers, the programmatic traders of the world, important user segment. But actually, even more important than this is the individual professional retail traders. So this is really not your friend that bought their first Bitcoin yesterday. It's people that understand trading, understand financial primitives, and now, for the first time, in a lot of cases, have access to them through DeFi and through the blockchain. So that's really what we're targeting. And because of that, we've had to build this product that caters to those users. And a big part of that is performance. And historically, that's been effectively impossible to build a highly performance exchange, decentralized exchange that is based fully on the blockchain. Whereas what we're building on the dYdX chain, like I was talking about before, we've taken the order book and the matching engine for the exchange. This is the key component because this is where all the performance constraints come from. We need about 1,000 transactions per second on dYdX right now, and obviously dYdX hopes to grow, so we'll have to continue improving that by orders of magnitude. But the kind of genesis of the idea to move to the dYdX chain came about where we had this product that was working. About $1 billion a day is traded on dYdX so far. It's not everything that we hoped and dreamed for, but it's a really good start. So we had something that was working, and we asked ourselves, how can we take this to the next level? Big part of that is full decentralization. If we go back to the technology, the problem that we had to solve is how can we build a performance system that's fully decentralized to the tune of 1,000 transactions per second, ideally with low or no gas fees and close to instant finality. Big ask there. And the thing that we realized when we looked at the technology about 1.5 years ago was there are no blockchains that can support this level of throughput. And I would even say that's true of Cosmos itself. So you may ask, well, okay, if no blockchains can support what you're building, how have you built this thing? And the fundamental innovation that we came up with for the dYdX chain is we've built what we're calling a decentralized but off-chain order book. So this means that the order book and the matching engine are completely decentralized as the chain itself, but they don't actually go into consensus. So it's kind of like, when you send a transaction on MetaMask and it's pending for some amount of seconds before it actually gets mined. That means your transaction on Ethereum is in what's called the mempool. It's on the network, but it hasn't actually been mined into the blockchain yet. And we've taken this and customized this concept for the dYdX chain, where we've effectively used the mempool of our new blockchain to be custom and to run an order book. and a matching engine. And on the dYdX chain, when a market maker or a user submits an order, it gets propagated throughout the network, but it isn't actually mined yet. So you get some massive throughput bonus just based off of that massive latency bonus as well. The blockchain itself does have pretty fast finality. So once those transactions are mined to the chain, then they are final within on the order of 1 to 3 seconds. So that's a lot of technical speak, but that's effectively what we've built here. I think the reason that users should care about this is a fewfold. So it really comes down to what a lot of people, and I think myself included, have been talking about as the benefits of DeFi for a long time now. You can trade on an exchange that is truly transparent. We nor anyone else don't have access to any particular special data that's based on the blockchain. It's all transparent. It's kind of this same concept as has been invented by Bitcoin and popularized elsewhere, where it's a public ledger and everybody can read exactly the trades that are happening on the system. Everybody has equal access to the system, provably so, because it's open source code and everybody can see what all the participants of the network are doing. It's very composable in the sense that this is, again, all open source code. Other developers can develop on top of it, whether that's a different product or modifying the code of the blockchain or the product itself. I think that's going to be something that we've seen start to be very powerful within DeFi, and now that dYdX is going to have access to in a big way as well. And then the final part, which I think is really, really important, is the dYdX chain can truly be controlled by its users. So this is obviously dYdX token holders that I'm talking about here, but this was certainly the case on dYdX v3, but I think is even more the case on the dYdX chain, where because it's all open source code now, the users can control everything with the operations of the chain itself. And I think that's a really exciting difference because it's really taken our role for what we're building at our company, dYdX Trading, from an operator of an exchange to just a developer of open source software. And now the community can really run this code, can be a big contributor to how it evolves over time. And I think that's something that's really fundamentally new and different and exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's so much that's unlocked with V4 that wasn't possible before, and we'll definitely dive into that. But I want to touch just one last bit on this kind of decentralization idea, and how are you, as CEO of dYdX Trading, thinking about balancing the principles of decentralization with the practical needs of running a large-scale company?
So I think it depends what you mean when you talk about company, right? Because now there's multiple companies that are all working on this project, call it together. So there's our company, dYdX Trading, which is building the software. There's the dYdX Foundation, which is responsible for the token and governance. A new thing that's been created by the DAO recently is the dYdX Operations DAO. So if you ever hear this term, they're effectively running the front ends. They're running an indexer service, which is just a more central service that allows data to be read off the blockchain more efficiently. So there's all these types of people, even that are dYdX branded, that are now responsible for operating this product together. And even more than that, I think we've taken a big step farther. Now there are many validators that are running the chain. There are many market makers that are providing liquidity. And there are starting to be many other industry participants that are building really big parts of what it means to be the dYdX chain. So just an example of this, one of the companies that dYdX has been working closely with is this company called Noble. And what they've done is take USDC and get a native deployment of USDC onto Cosmos. And this is really exciting both for dYdX and Cosmos users generally, because now you can actually hold native USDC. So it's not a bridge. There's no bridge risk that you're exposed to when you're trading on the dYdX chain. You're exposed to exactly the same risks as you might be exposed to holding USDC on Ethereum or dYdX chain or elsewhere, more or less. And this was all made possible through a collaboration with this company, Noble, which launched a new app chain recently. Obviously, they and us and other people have been working closely with Circle on this. And the point I'm making here is there's just a really wide array of industry participants that are coming together to all build this thing that's now dYdX. That said, I think part of what you're asking about is a little more abstract too. Like, how do we take this decentralized ecosystem, not just of the product itself, but of the people building and running the product, and still make really impressive technological progress throughout the course of dYdX going forwards? And not just technological progress, but I always like to say to everybody, our goal at dYdX is not just to become the biggest decentralized exchange in the world. More or less, we've already done that. I mean, our volume is fairly close with Uniswaps overall, but to become one of the biggest exchanges in crypto, period. Not this year, not next year, but on kind of a 5 to 10 year time horizon. And I think if we zoom out and start to look at things from that perspective, we realize pretty quickly that we still have a lot to do, both for us at dYdX and then everybody working in DeFi and crypto more broadly. So we need to make big changes going forwards. And I think the interesting dichotomy of being the CEO of a company behind a decentralized blockchain is you need the thing to be decentralized, which it is. We just talked about that. But you still need to have strong leadership in the sense
Mhm.
that you need to be making progress here. And the thing I think a lot about is committees cannot really make significant progress from an exponential perspective. They are absolutely important, and I'm really excited about a lot of the things that are going on with governance more broadly in crypto and specifically on dYdX as well. But I think a lot about how can I, as kind of the main leader of dYdX more broadly, just continue to articulate a compelling vision for what we're doing here. And I think a big part of it is aligning on the goal. And another big part of it is not having to convince everybody of the goal, but convincing the majority of people and saying reasonable things at every point. And I think I've been fairly consistent about how I've talked about dYdX over the years. I think the first thing that's really important to align on, both for us and the community and everybody building on dYdX, is what is the goal here? What are we doing? I just said what it is for me. I can't necessarily tell you what your goal with dYdX as kind of a member of the community, a user, a potential builder on the platform should be. But I would challenge all of us to think really big here. And I think that's kind of the unique branding, the unique position that dYdX is in, is we've shown this historically that we're not afraid to take really big risks,
Mhm.
both from a technological and product perspective. And historically, those have paid off for us. Obviously, we need to continue to monitor honestly how things are going. But we need to be moving forwards with strong direction. And I think that kind of definitionally has to come from one person or a small number of people setting a really clear and articulate vision, setting the roadmap for how we're going to get there. Absolutely taking feedback from the community, taking a lot of direction from token holders, from governance, from the other people building on the platform. But yeah, there's no one clear answer, and it's something I'm still learning. But I think this duality between decentralization and strong, clear leadership is one I think about a lot.
Yeah, definitely, and it seems it's important to have both, and, you kind of were touching on, making a risk and making these decisions to, uh, go to V4 and have the chain, and, of course, you're taking these risks because you think there's gonna be some kind of benefit, and I'm curious what you think, like, maybe what feature you are the most excited to work on now that dYdX is in its own standalone app chain that wouldn't have been possible to build on V3 or on the layer 2 before.
Yeah. So one of the things we also try to do at dYdX is move fast. And I think a big part of that you learn in Silicon Valley culture is to start with MVPs, minimal viable products for those who aren't familiar. And we really tried to approach the dYdX chain as that. The definition of MVP, I think, changes as you go through the course of your company. And dYdX is a big brand within DeFi now. We have a lot of resources. And we are really excited and proud of the products that we've developed, and do think it's a great one right now. That being said, there's still a decent amount of work to do for the next 6 months or so, taking the dYdX chain from a product that's an MVP to, I think, a really, really excellent version of a decentralized derivatives exchange. And we'll share a lot more info about that on Twitter and our plans pretty soon. That being said, the really big thing that I've honestly realized in the past year or two is okay, first of all, let's start with our goals. We're not even close to being one of the biggest exchanges in crypto right now, no decentralized exchanges. What do we actually have to do here to accomplish that goal? What's a reasonable strategy to get us there? And for a long time, effectively for the past 6 years, my hypothesis had been that if we just took what a great experience for trading derivatives on a centralized exchange looked like and ported that into DeFi, then that would be something that could be an excellent product because, okay, it's exactly the same thing, exactly the same product experience that you get on a centralized exchange, but wow, it's transparent, it's equally accessible, it's controlled by the community. There could be interesting incentives or rewards around this. Okay, that's clearly a better product. This must win. And that's basically what we've done for the past 6 years or so, and a lot of effort has gone into that. And we'll continue to do that. But the really big thing I don't think we've done at dYdX so far that I'm excited about at a high level is coming up with new fundamentally different products or fundamentally different aspects of the product that are uniquely enabled by DeFi. So what do I mean by this? I think Uniswap is actually a really great example of this. Uniswap is something that's really fundamentally new and different than what you could do on a centralized exchange. It's like, wow, oh my God, for the first time in history, anybody can go to an exchange, add any market that they want to trade, become an LP very easily. And yes, there's a lot of considerations around this. Is it objectively better than an order book or than a centralized exchange? No, but it's different. And it's going to create this new market segment, especially if people want to use a product like that, which empirically they have for the past few years. So I think this is a really instructive example, both to prove my point of the really big things that have happened in Web3 so far all have been really fundamentally new and different. It's like, let's just take a look back throughout history in crypto. What has actually spurred every single bull market? It's a technological innovation. If you look back at the 2017 bull market, it was ICOs. It's fundamentally new, fundamentally different. People wanted this product in ICOs, which I would argue are a product. For the first time in history, anybody could create this new asset class. Nobody can stop you, et cetera. Obviously, there's rules and regulations around that, but it's permissionless. It's fundamentally different. Then DeFi started blowing up, mostly around things like Compound and Uniswap in 2020. Talked about that being really different. Then in the past year or two, NFTs really started to blow up. That's really fundamentally new, fundamentally different. So again, bring it back to dYdX. The thing that we're trying to do at a high level in 2024 is come up with new types of features on dYdX that are fundamentally different than what you could get on any other derivatives exchange. And that's cool. That's interesting. It's hard to do because you don't necessarily know, first of all, what's technologically possible, and second of all, what's going to resonate with users. But the consistent feedback that we've been getting for a long time on dYdX is that the most important thing to users is the markets that are tradable on a platform. And it's just constant. Like, people are always asking us for more markets, for different types of markets, for novel markets that they might want to trade. And I think this really makes sense. And the hypothesis I would tie this back to that I have is trading anything within crypto is a really powerful narrative. And what if we could create a derivatives exchange or a derivatives exchange technology that you could trade almost anything on, or at least that the users could decide what to trade on this exchange, sort of like a Uniswap. It would be permissionless market listings. This is something that I'm really excited about for the long term, and that we're going to build out as an experiment on dYdX in V4. And again, back to your question, Kenzie, it really is fundamentally enabled by the technology and by the dYdX chain, and first and foremost by it just being software, by it being controlled by the users. And that is the thing that really enables some of these fundamentally new things that we could not have done before on dYdX.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm really excited to see how that plays out and be a part of that as well. And I want to dive maybe just a little bit deeper into the chain. I know we're actually running out of time almost, but we just announced, or there was an announcement that the trading rewards and incentives via Chaos Labs and the dYdX Foundation are going to be active on the DOS owned dYdX chain. So do you want to maybe just explain to anybody who's listening what those rewards are and how traders can benefit from them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with a clear explanation and then dive into details. So the main thing to realize that's happened in the past week is, first of all, the dYdX chain is now production ready. And that means that users are able to trade, obviously, with real USDC, with unlimited amounts of USDC, go and use the product, more or less. The second thing to realize is that rewards have started within the past week as well. And this is something that has been enabled by a community vote that happens through the dYdX token. And those rewards went live yesterday morning. So there's two types of rewards on the dYdX chain right now. The first one is trading rewards. So this is something that has existed on dYdX for the past 2 or so years, since the advent of the dYdX token. And it's more or less the same thing, though it's slightly different in a few important ways. The higher level thing to understand about trading rewards is that you, as the trader, as the user, get paid in dYdX tokens every time that you place the trade. You get paid proportional to the amount of fees that you pay on each particular trade. The first thing to know that's different about trading rewards on dYdX v4 is that they're instant. So on dYdX v3, for anybody that's used that product, you have probably been familiar with trading on the exchange, and then at the end of the month, you'll get some allocation of tokens, and then you got to go pay gas fees to claim them, and this whole process that's kind of a hassle, honestly. And you don't know how much rewards you're going to get, all this sort of stuff. It's different on the dYdX chain. One of so the main way that it's different is click the button, you place your order. 2 seconds later, the order fills, your trade is open, and at the exact same time, you receive dYdX tokens as a reward in your account. And they're there, they're yours. You can do whatever you want with them. You can stake them, you can vote on governance. And I think this is really important and is going to allow dYdX to test a hypothesis that has existed for a while of using the product, then getting rewards in the protocol's native token for using the product, then using the token for things like staking, where you can earn an income, or for governance, that sort of thing. And that incentivizing you to use the product more, get more tokens, use them more. And it's kind of this flywheel that people have talked about for a long time within crypto. So that's a really exciting thing with trading rewards. The other rewards program that has started just yesterday is called the Launch Incentives Program. So for trading rewards, that's something that'll exist more or less indefinitely, or for at least the next couple years. And the launch incentives are only going to exist for the next 6 months. And this is a program that's designed to bootstrap the network effectively, more or less. And this program had been designed by Chaos Labs, which is one of the external partners that I kind of referenced before, and is a good example of multiple people working on the dYdX chain. Obviously, this went through governance, was voted on, that sort of thing as well. But the way this program works is it's kind of similar to Blur, or Friendtech, if you've ever used those products. And effectively, for using the product, you will get points for using the product. And then on, I believe it's a monthly cadence, then Chaos Labs and the dYdX governance will turn those points into actual dYdX tokens. So this is something that we in the dYdX community have seen work well for other products. Obviously, this is something that bootstrapped Blur into, by volume, I think still the largest NFT exchange in the world. People are pretty hyped about this. With Friendtech, it's not exactly the same thing, honestly, because this is a token in the dYdX token that's existed for a while, but I think can be more compelling in some ways because there's an understood amount of dYdX tokens and their value that's going to be allocated to this for the next 6 months. I think it's to the tune of $20 million. But it's a little bit different in the sense that it's not some new token that you may be speculating on doesn't exist yet. So I'm excited about both of these. I think they are both really compelling reasons to go use the product, go at least try out the product. I'll touch just a little bit more on one of the things I mentioned before, which is when I talk about the product, it's different than how like the normal CEO of a company would talk about their own product. So obviously we are the open source developers behind dYdX, but the deployments of the product, which I use in a general sense, it's a protocol that's decentralized, has front-end components, has the entire blockchain behind it, is decentralized, and it's operated by a lot of the validators at the consensus layer, and then by the dYdX operations DAO at more of the application layer as well. So this product is available through the ops DAO at dYdX.trade. So this is a different URL from what existing users of dYdX might be used to. Our company's domain is dYdX.exchange, and we still have a lot of information about both V3 and the V4 dYdX chain product on dYdX.exchange, but the actual product is available through the ops DAO at dYdX.trade.
Nice. Yeah. So I think you've talked a lot about, I mean, I'm personally excited, have been this whole time, but extra excited after this call about dYdX chain. I think there's a lot of great features and seems like, these rewards are really exciting. But just to close it out, can you talk a little bit about some of the security that's put into place on this chain and why users should feel pretty comfortable going and trying it out?
So there's been a lot that's gone into the security of the chain. Obviously, we do a lot of internal auditing with the code. This is something where, honestly, the best confidence I can kind of give you is we've been doing this for a long time and have had hundreds of millions of dollars locked in our smart contracts for a while. Obviously, it's not a guarantee, like this is new technology and we're at the bleeding edge of finance here. So keep that in mind with whatever money you choose to use on the product. But I do think we have a long history of building technologies, new technologies, different technologies at dYdX and building them in a really secure way, even while we're at the frontier of technology, even within crypto. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing I can say to give confidence to users. Obviously, we've gotten external audits. We've gotten audits from Informal Systems, which is the experts in auditing Cosmos-based blockchains. And we'll continue to do a good job on the security side going forwards. So it's kind of interesting. The actual risks of using a decentralized derivative exchange are twofold. First of all is kind of the technology risk, which I've just talked about. If there's a bug in the code, then there's not too much you can do. Actually, as a brief aside, there's probably more the product can do on its own app chain because the network controls the chain itself, can potentially halt the chain, stuff like that. There's more mitigations. It's not a silver bullet, but it actually is in some ways more secure than a smart contract deployed on Ethereum. In some ways, there's a lot of trade-offs around that. We talked about that for a while, but so there is a lot of security that goes into the technology itself. We talked about that. The other type of risk that you should think about when you're trading on any financial product, but especially a derivatives exchange, is financial risk and the solvency of the entire exchange. So this is something that we've been thinking a lot about recently, have been for a while, especially present for us, given probably what a lot of people saw recently on dYdX. I think it was a week or two ago, is there was an incident on V3 where a market manipulator effectively extracted $9 million or so out of the dYdX insurance fund. For anybody that hasn't seen my tweets about that, it's no user funds were lost, all came out of the insurance fund. Insurance fund is still healthy, but that obviously made us just redouble our efforts on what does it mean to build a financially solvent, financially safe product going forwards. And the thing I will say is there's a lot of differences, first of all, that have already existed in the dYdX chain software, and then second of all, that we're actively working on developing for the next month or two that make it different from V3. And a couple of these things are, first of all, the number of markets and specifically the quality of the markets on the chain are going to be much more up to date. Effectively, what happened on V3 is there was a token that didn't have that much volume, didn't have that much open interest. And because nobody was actually trading it, it was a lot easier to manipulate that market. So because it's going to be easier for the community to add markets, to relegate markets on the dYdX chain, that should inherently make it a lot safer just with that. The way this is a little bit technical, but the way the deleveraging on the system works, the way the liquidation engine on the system works is fundamentally different in V4, and based on our simulations would have prevented this attack that happened on V3 in a pretty big way. So that's another really big thing. Another thing that we're actively developing on the chain right now is disallowing withdrawing from the chain if any accounts are under collateralized. So this would basically disallow pretty much all the classes of attacks that classically happen on decentralized derivatives exchanges, where it's kind of like you take some position, you pump the price of that asset way up, you withdraw a lot of collateral off the chain, then the price of that asset goes down faster, then the system can liquidate it. If all that happens, then the rest of the people that are still on the exchange are in trouble now because you have to pull from the insurance fund, or if that's not enough, then you have to deleverage and do social losses. So you effectively want to stop that from happening, which almost definitionally is what I'm saying we're doing in this feature here, because it won't be possible to do that anymore. And none of these things on any exchange are 100%. Honestly, it's something that I think that you can build up a lot of confidence over time as the system is battle tested, and that's something we're looking forward to actively monitoring on the dYdX chain, and will continue to take as a huge priority going forwards.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as we've learned too, not everything is secure on centralized exchanges either. So
Hmm.
yeah, thanks so much, Antonio. I know we actually really ran over time. As Antonio mentioned, full trading is active, so are trading rewards. You can try it out at dYdX.trade. Again, Antonio, thank you so much for joining. This was really great. I'm excited about the dYdX chain. I hope everyone is too. And we'll talk to you later.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kenzie.
Okay, bye.